Today on the DML News Podcast, the mayor of New York City indicted on several charges by the federal government. Ooh, baby. And then also, we've got a dangerous hurricane hitting Florida. Plus, we're doing a little Ask DML. So get ready, because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Today's an interesting day. We're going to get Denny into this in a second. He's across from me. I got Ryan on the controls. He's my other son. We're going to do an Ask DML. I think you guys have given me 19 questions. Denny always adds in the 20th. But before we get going into that, two bits of news that have to be addressed immediately. Number one is Hurricane Helene. It is turning into being a vicious, vicious storm. I'm on the complete other side of Florida. In fact, where I live is like one of the spots that really isn't getting a whole lot. And yet the winds today have almost already ripped out a tree from my yard. So with that in mind, keep in mind that it is going to be ferocious. And so if you are somebody who lives on the west coast of Florida, if you are somebody in the Tampa area or in the Panhandle area, I know Shirley Blanchett, a great Team DML member, is in harm's way. So our prayers as a family and as a team go out to everybody who is subject to this big, huge, ferocious hurricane. With that said, there's another storm brewing, if you will. This time it's in New York City. Just prior to me getting on here, a indictment has been unsealed in in New York City. It's rumbling. It's called Hurricane Adams. Let me give this to you straight from the New York Times. It was just printed not so long ago. Here's the latest on the mayor's indictment. Mayor Eric Adams, who, by the way, is a raging Democrat, has been indicted on 5 federal charges of bribery, fraud, and soliciting illegal foreign campaign donations that prosecutors said began when he was a top elected official in Brooklyn and continued after he became mayor. Sounds just like a Democrat, doesn't he? The indictment, which was unsealed on Thursday morning, allows an investigation that started in 2021 and has focused, at least in part, on whether he conspired with the Turkish government, what a scumbag, to receive illegal foreign campaign contributions and whether he took official actions on its behalf. Federal prosecutors said that Mr. Adams sought and accepted improper valuable benefits since at least 2014. When he was when he was then the Brooklyn Borough president, according to the indictment. The benefits included luxury international travel, free and discounted airline tickets to Turkey, and free meals and hotel rooms while there from wealthy foreigners and at least one Turkish government official, prosecutors said. Mr. Adams tried to hide the gifts or make them appear as if he had paid for them, according to the indictment, and also deleted messages to cover his actions. The gifts were valued at tens of thousands of dollars, prosecutors said. In exchange for the perks, Mr. Adams, as mayor, pressured officials at the New York Fire Department to open a new Turkish consular building in Manhattan despite fire inspection issues. A fire department official who was overseeing the building's fire safety assessment said he was told he would lose his job if he did not follow the mayor's order. This is just so Democrat. As Adams' prominence and power grew, his foreign national benefactors sought to cash in on their corrupt relationships with him, particularly when, in 2021, it became clear that Adams would become New York City's mayor. That's what prosecutors wrote in the indictment. Early this morning, federal agents searched the official residence of Mr. Adams. At about 6 a.m. on Thursday, nearly a dozen men and women dressed in business attire arrived in SUVs outside the entrance of Gracie Mansion, the mayor's official residence on the Upper East Side. Many agents were still at Gracie Mansion later in the morning when some of the mayor's top advisors and his former chief counsel, Brendan McGuire, walked inside. A lawyer for Mr. Adams, Alex Spiro, issued a statement on Thursday saying that the agents had come for the mayor's phone, even though investigators had taken some electronic devices from him last year. In a statement sent by email, Mr. Spiro said federal agents appeared this morning at Gracie Mansion in an effort to create a spectacle again and take Mayor Adams' phone again. He has not been arrested and looks forward to his day in court. They send a dozen agents to pick up a phone when we would have happily turned it in. On Wednesday night, a number of elected officials called for Mr. Adams to resign, including several Democrats running against him in next year's Democratic primary. Governor Kathy Hochul has the power to remove him from office. She has yet to comment on the indictment. But Mr. Adams has proclaimed his innocence. He said he always knew that if he stood his ground for New Yorkers, that he would be a target, and he has become one, so he says, at 64 years old. Mr. Adams is a retired police captain, was elected New York's 110th mayor in 2021 after a campaign built on a pledge to reduce crime and bring professionalism back to City Hall. So here's what else we know. Here's what could happen. If Mayor Adams resigns, the acting mayor would be Jumaine Williams, New York City's public advocate. He would schedule a nonpartisan special election for a new mayor, which could take place within 90 days. The investigation involving Mr. Adams burst into public view nearly a year ago when the FBI raided the home of his chief fundraiser. Investigators seized his electronic devices a few days later. 4 federal investigations have ensnared the Adams administration and high-ranking officials, including the police commissioner and the school's chancellor. So, because the Turkish airline Adams flew provided him with free travel benefits worth tens of thousands of dollars, he flew that airline even when doing so was otherwise inconvenient, the indictment says. It says that once in 2017, Adams' partner was surprised to learn he was in Turkey when she understood him to be flying from New York to France. Adam responded in a text message, "Transferring here. You know first stop is always Istanbul," the indictment says. Adams sought to hide the benefits he received, in part by paying a nominal fee to create the appearance of having paid for travel that was, in fact, heavily discounted. And he concealed his illegal activities. That's what the indictment says, by deleting messages with others involved in that misconduct. In one instance, assured a co-conspirator in writing, he assured a co-conspirator in writing that he always deleted her messages. So that is, your latest Democrat who is just absolutely radical, doesn't follow the rules, wants to cheat and skimp and what have you. And so at the end of the day, he saved, it wasn't a whole lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars in air travel. But one must wonder how many different deals he gave foreign adversaries. Dennis said it yesterday in the podcast. He is tired of foreign influence, and so too am I. I hope Mayor Adams stands as an example of 2 things. One that's apparent from what I just read to you, which is don't do the wrong thing. Don't sell out your country for your own greed. And number 2 is, make no mistake, this kind of stuff here doesn't get uncovered and doesn't get blown up into a major, major thing unless you have literally pissed somebody off. And who he's pissed off, I have no idea. But it looks like maybe now he's going to get pissed on. And that's always the worst of 2 evils. And that is my opening statement. All right, let's move on now. We have asked people on Team DML to send in their questions via email. That's something new we're doing now. Also, they could post them on the live chat on teamdml.com, which is exclusive for our members. And they could also post them to me on Facebook. I don't know the questions in advance. Dennis sort of picks them, although I will say today's a different in sense of one. There was a question from a woman named Connie that requires me to make a list. So Dennis kind of gave that to me ahead of the show. But other than that, it's always this is my favorite show of the week because it's an opportunity for you to participate with us. Before we get going, let me just tell you right now, we extended, because of requests and popularity, dmlcbd.com/gel. The buy one, get one free for the soft gels. It was supposed to be yesterday only. So many people said, please, I didn't listen to the podcast until this morning. Can you do it again? So we're going to leave it to this morning. We're going to leave it all day today. dmlcbd.com/gel, GEL. Buy one, get one free for our most popular product, which is the DML CBD soft gels. If you never tried them before and you're having a problem sleeping, or if you want to boost your immune system, or if you got aches and pains and you'd like to have a little bit more flexibility and say adios to those, or if you have anxiety and you'd like to see that go to the wayside, so many people swear by the soft gels. Like I said, it's been our #1 selling product for years. Give it a shot. It's a buy one, get one free, no matter how many you buy. You buy one, you get another one for free. You buy three, because we sell them in 3-packs, you get another 3 for free for a total of 6. You buy 10, you get 20 total. And here's the great thing about that. When you buy 3, we have it on a discount of 10% off buying 1. When you buy 10, it's a discount of 20%. So in addition to that 10 and 20% discount, then I'm doubling your order. So that's why so many people wind up buying, especially families, like our whole family will use the soft gels. If you're a family, it would behoove you. You save 20% to buy a 10-pack, and then you're getting 20. So go to dmlcbd.com/gel. Go there today. Also, we have our special still running. We're not going to be in the studio and warehouse for long, so we're trying to get rid of all of the inventory, non-CBD inventory that we've had in here that have been left over from different sales. And we have hats, DVDs, T-shirts, bumper stickers, you name it. We have almost sold out of everything. If you go to dmlcbd.com/store, STORE, and you buy, let's say, for instance, a hat, usually this hat would go for $30. We're giving it away for $10. But even better than that, you get for free with your purchase a dmlcbd.com/face. You get a face serum, a DML CBD face serum bottle. This usually goes for $55. So think about it. $10, you get a hat that used to go for $30, and you get a free bottle of DML CBD face serum. So people are buying things they don't even want. I mean, I'm getting multiple people buying multiple hats and multiple bumper stickers just so this way they could get it. So usually a 3-pack of this would cost close to $200. Now you're getting it for $30. So the two deals one more time, dmlcbd.com/gel for the buy one, get one free soft gels today only, and dmlcbd.com/store, STORE, and that has all of our different items on there. It's a $10 giveaway. Buy as many as you want, and you get a free bottle courtesy of the DML Foundation for every purchase that you make of every item. All right, Dennis, so we asked for questions. I know I think you said we got a couple in email. You picked out, 2 from email?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. So these are Team DML members who sent in an email to you. Go.
So first one is from Cynthia Avanzino. What is the main reason Democrats are for illegal immigration? And why don't Republican senators rally more against this if it's hurting our country?
I hate to say that a Team DML member is wrong. She's half right, but she's wrong. It's not just the Democrats who want illegal immigration. It's the Republicans. I bring you back to 2000 and I'm going to say 12. Jeb Bush, very popular governor at the time in Florida, a Republican. Everybody thought he would be the nominee for the GOP. It turns out to be Trump. He called illegal immigration an act of love. Does everybody remember that one? So historically, the storyline has always been that Republicans want illegal immigrants to come in here for the sake of cheap labor, and that the Democrats want them for the sake of cheap votes. First of all, that's BS, because liberals also own businesses. They want cheap labor. I think the reason why Democrats are pushing it more now than ever is because they want the free votes, and they'll get them over the Republicans because they offer these migrants and illegal aliens everything for free. I mean, look at the way things are going now. We got veterans living in tents, Dennis, but we've got illegal aliens living in posh hotels for free with free food, free phone, free everything. So the Democrats know that they can build basically a ghost army filled of future Americans. I think the bigger storyline, the one that nobody ever talks about, and the one that really has shown its ugly mug in the most recent years, is that the illegal aliens are going to wind up being U.S. citizens if Kamala Harris gets into office. In long term, the Obama plan for this country was to fundamentally change it. That fundamental transformation means that we have to get rid of people like you and me, educated folks who are willing to stand up and fight for themselves. And the country has to become that of a third world. It has to become the migrant. The person who was making $1 a day, now making $20 an hour with benefits. The person who was afraid to just even be able to live past 25 years old if they could get through that because of the violence, now to sit here and say, I go to America and I could basically get Social Security that I didn't even work for. Why wouldn't they come? And if they came and they got all those things and the Democrats can take credit for giving it to them, the Democrats will never lose another election. And America winds up becoming a weaker nation because of we have basically an uneducated populace that's never going to push back. And that's how Barack Obama gets his fundamental transformation. But make no mistake, the greedy Republicans who do want that cheap labor, who are bought and paid for by the lobbyists and special interest groups, are turning blind eyes to things like mandatory E-Verify, and they do it for the sake of the dollar. And what they're doing is they're basically selling out their country.
Mark Martin, can Trump and Vance be arrested if they go to Springfield? I think this is in relation to the Haitian Alliance issuing arrest charges.
Look, anybody could be arrested anywhere. I don't think that the Trump campaign should go to Springfield, by the way. I don't think they need to. I think the highlight has already been made. I think Trump should be speaking more about how it is that he would exactly go about an immigration plan. He doesn't get into the details. That's the question that was asked of me today, so I am going to get into details. But I don't think it's anything anybody has to worry about.
This next one comes from Kim Donnelly. Do you think Zelensky and Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro are influencing the election? I think this is coming off of a viral video of where Governor Shapiro was signing the artillery shell that they were donating to Ukraine.
I don't want to focus in on Shapiro alone. I think that the Democrats are such a tight group, and you have to appreciate that, even though they are a tight group of criminals, as far as I'm concerned. I think they're all playing their part. I mean, look what they just did in Arizona. You know, that's a liberal governor there. They're making it so this way 98,000 non-citizens can basically stay on the voter roll. So when you look at what each one of these blue states is doing, when you look at what they're trying to accomplish, they're not doing it as an individual. They're doing it as a whole. The idea of getting rid of Trump once and for all is like Christmas to these people. That's all they want. I got my dog on my lap here. That's all they want. So do I think it's a concerted effort? I think they all talk to each other all the time. I think they all do their part. But ultimately, I already think they know what the game plan is. You know, I think of a football game. You know, the defense knows what they're supposed to do. The quarterback and the offense know what they're supposed to do. During the game, you don't need to see the quarterback talk to the linebacker just to confirm things up. They already have their plan, and their plan is to win and beat the other team. And I think that's what you're seeing. So each one of these Democrats is doing their part to ensure that the Republican Party not only loses this time around, but is completely dead. Because if you take the first question you gave me with the second one, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Next is from Lori Sutton.
I think didn't we have one from Mark?
The Springfield.
Oh, okay, that was Mark for Springfield. Okay.
Yeah. From Lori Sutton. I'm wondering how long it will take if and when Trump gets in, how long it will take for the housing situation to get fixed. My daughter would like to buy a house, but what is she to do? Wait or not?
Oh, that's two questions. The housing market in this country has exploded for many different reasons, the biggest being supply and demand. It has cooled off in many different places, but in places like Florida, it's still red hot. I'll give you an example. There's a house that's not far from where I live. And in 2020, it sold for $770,000. Since then, the roof has gone somewhat bad, needs to be replaced. The guy is trying to sell it for $1.5 million. And a buddy of mine put a bid in on it for 1.1. And the guy that's selling it says, I'm not budging off 1.3. So think about that for a second. In 4 years, the house has grown older. The house, the roof, which is $100,000, needs to be fixed, and yet this guy knows he's going to stick at his 1.3 because even though the market's down a little bit now with interest rates dropping, the pricing is probably going to go back up. If Kamala Harris wins, the real estate market in Florida is going to rise because people, I think, are going to wind up fleeing here from many different places. So the question of should you buy now versus should you wait is a twofold answer. It depends on, number one, where you're looking to buy. Prices are depressed right now, so it's not a bad thing to do. Plus, mortgage rates just started to drop. Now, they're probably going to drop again the next time the Fed meets. They're probably going to, I think, cut another quarter point. So that means the interest rate will even go lower. If you were in the market for a house right now, if you were looking to, I would tell you to try to buy in the next couple of months. And the reason being is, even if you were paying higher on an interest rate, let's say, for instance, a year from now, the interest rates drop by 3 points. So what? That means that the housing market will probably start going up higher in the pricing because people could have access to money. I'm going to lift my price. You could always refinance. So what you want to do is you want to get in at the bottom of the market. I believe the market should start coming up. Kamala Harris doesn't matter. Donald Trump doesn't matter. It's based usually on the interest rates and supply and demand. We have so many people coming into this country, and we don't have homes being built as fast as we do people coming in. So I believe that supply and demand is going to hold itself for a while. I spoke to a realtor about this the other day. And again, I can only talk about my own location because each market is a little bit different. So for me to talk about the Florida market and think that that maybe is the same thing as Springfield, Ohio, which probably now is going to have plummeting prices because of migrants coming in left and right, I'd be selling my house tomorrow, right? I'll only talk about from the local perspective. When I spoke to a realtor, that realtor said things are slow right now. People are waiting. And they're waiting because they know that the interest rates are going to come down. And when they do start to come down, they're going to start to buy. And so it becomes a supply and demand thing. If there's a lot of buyers, sellers start lifting it up. So I think right now is the time.
Nancy McGrath, our military is so weak at this point. I've talked to some people that are currently active duty. They are actually afraid of, and if a war breaks out because of the lack of leadership. One person said it would be mostly cyber attacks, communication, banking, etc. What do you think or feel about the state of our military at this point? Are we in trouble if we have to go to war?
Well, what Nancy's doing there is she's sort of combining two different things. When we think of the military, we think of guns, tanks, Marines, men in boots on the ground. A cyber attack is something that's done online, but yet the Pentagon is responsible in many different ways as spearheading against the sort of cyber attacks. I feel where we're most vulnerable, and it's a big shift from where things used to be in this country. We used to be so powerful because we had more military apparatus than anybody else. The ships, the planes, the tanks, the missiles, the nuclear, you name it. We had, a huge army, a huge Marine Corps, a huge Navy. We're having a hard time recruiting anybody. I think it was last year or the year before, we were 65,000 recruits short just in the Army alone. Our Navy is using old technology. They can't get parts for ships. China is building the biggest Navy in the world. Russia now has more nuclear warheads than any other country. So drones, Iran is building an incredible army of drones. So what's happening is, from an apparatus standpoint, our country is becoming basically on even plane with everybody else when it comes from a physical, material sort of thing. I think our technology still supersedes almost anybody else's, but give some time. That's going to change as well. From a military personnel point of view, we still have a lot of great members of our military. I get reminded of this every time that we speak poorly about the military on our show. We call them woke. I'll always get an email from somebody who says, hey, my son is in the Marines and he ain't woke. And so I have to be responsible in saying not everybody is broken in the military. Problem is we have too many that are broken. Our training techniques are no longer what they once were. The days of Full Metal Jacket. Remember that movie where the guy comes in, drop your sock, drop your carton, grab your socks, and going into somebody's face. They don't do that anymore. Now it's like a kindergarten class. So I'm afraid that the hunger and the training that we once had is no longer what it once was. We're not training the same sort of soldier and Marine as we were. I think that we're taking in way too many woke-like practices and forgetting that our enemy is not somebody that we love. It's somebody that we don't love and doesn't love us. So between the apparatus being on the decline, between the personnel being on the decline, the numbers being on the decline, I fear that sort of war in a big, huge way, especially if we have two wars. Remember, our military, after I think it was either, maybe Ryan knows it, after World War I or World War II, Ryan, if you know, if I'm saying it wrong, correct me. I think it was after World War II, we made it so our military would be able to fight two wars simultaneously. I don't know if we would be able to fight right now in a war to defend Taiwan from China and at the same time get involved in, let's say, defending Israel from the other Muslim countries in the Middle East. I don't know if we'd have the ability to do that. We'd be very weakened. So that's one. Then you got the cyber side of things. You don't need to hit a missile. You don't need to lift off a plane. You don't need to sail a boat. All you need to do is be able to access via computer code that is going to shut down a nuclear power plant, that is going to take out an electrical grid. I don't know what we're doing defensively to make sure that we're not going to get hacked and stolen from. When I see Joe Biden allowing a spy balloon to go over our country and gather data and pictures and intelligence, and we do nothing about it, it scares the living crap out of me. But let's not forget, it's not like that balloon was going across with an old 8mm camera and capturing it, and that film cassette was the best thing since sliced bread. You had to get your hands on it. The pictures are in real time being sent back as they're being taken. So I don't think our country is up to snuff on that. Even if you look at the technology companies today, who are the biggest and brightest companies at all, Google, Apple, Facebook, where are they getting their employees from? Overseas. We're importing people in. So we're too busy teaching our kids about gender studies when people in China and India and Iran are all learning about digital coding and nuclear science. We're in a lot of trouble.
Marlene Glagowski O'Brien. At a little over 1 month out from a very important election for our country, my stomach is already a mess, thinking, quote, what if she wins? Other than praying, which I do every day, what will you tell your viewers to comfort them the day after the election if my fears become a reality?
Okay, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to talk about what I'm going to say to you if Trump loses, because if I did that, I would offset my answer to the first part of the question. I'll tell two very quick stories. If I'm going too long, you stop me. I believe in the power of manifestation. I really do. I'll give two stories that are undeniable. The first day I met my wife in 9th grade, I went home and I told my mother that I was going to marry this girl that I had met. My mother kind of laughed at me, and here I am married to her. I always saw myself marrying Mary all the time throughout high school. I used to talk to her about it all the time, and Mary didn't catch on to that theory until she was in college. But I believe I manifested that whole thing. I saw Mary and I with a big family, and that's what we have today. Secondly, after I made They Come to America 1, which was my first film, Everybody on Fox News wanted me on. The only person who didn't want me on was Sean Hannity. And I asked a buddy of mine who was very in the know at Fox News why it was that Sean Hannity wouldn't put me on. And he said to me, well, that's because Hannity's jealous of your work. He right now has been the guy at Fox who was the border guy. And you now have superseded him, not only with more intelligence, but greater film and greater knowledge of what it is what's going on. He is not going to promote you, so this way you basically submerge him, even though that was not my objective. Well, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was my ego, or maybe I just knew I wanted to have a greater reach. When I was making They Come to America 2, I was in my Jeep driving alone on Interstate 10 through Texas. Anybody who's ever made that going to the West Coast, you know how dangerous and long and boring that ride is. There's only a few exits along the way. You better have gas. And so I'm on this road and I'm thinking to myself, and I started to think for hours, and I started visioning myself not only being on Hannity for They Come to America 2, but having a full special all to myself on Hannity, something he rarely did that he would do periodically on Fridays, rarely ever did with somebody who wasn't a major politician. After I made my film, it was about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks after I had made it, but I hadn't really even launched it yet. I get a phone call from Hannity's producer offering me not only an appearance, but a 1-hour special. So I believe in manifestation. So what I want people to do now is I don't want you to fear Kamala Harris winning. I want you to think about Donald Trump winning. What will you do with your life if Trump wins on November 5? What will you start doing on the 6th, 7th, and every month thereafter? Start manifesting that win. Start thinking positive and start thinking about how life is going to change in America with Donald J. Trump back in the Oval Office.
Roberta Combs. I'm worried about the future for my son and grandkids. If you are elected, what would you do exactly to preserve the freedoms we have today, and how would you go about doing them? How long would it take, etc.? I'm really scared for the future of us all. Thank you.
So how would you surmise that question? She asking what would I do if I were the president of the United States in general to assure our freedoms?
Yes.
Well, I'm not running for office, so this is sort of a hypothetical. But, if I were to run for office for 8, 12 years from now, the answer would be different because times would be different. So what I would do is, I think responsibly here would be to give an answer as how I would advise Trump. President Trump is entering a very, very hostile place if he does indeed win. He has death threats like nothing we've ever seen before, and they're going to keep on trying until they get him. He's got to be cognizant of that. So if he goes after his enemies, the level of intensity for his life is going to be tenfold. He has got to surround himself with the most trustworthy, consistent conservatives there are in the Republican Party and throughout the country. I'll give you an example of one, and I'm not even crazy about this guy as a human being, but Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has stayed and remained conservative and to his principles 99% of the time. And in fact, I say 99.5% of the time. He's only slipped once or twice. And even when he slipped, he recovered. He would be somebody I would immediately tap for the Department of Justice because I know I would be able to trust him. One of the things about Trump that scared the living bejesus out of me was he was considering Marco Rubio as a vice president. This is a guy who has flip-flopped on his conservative values time in and time again. Another person that he puts a lot of weight into is this African-American fellow from South Florida, Byron Daniels. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. That's not saying he's not a good guy, but he used to be a Democrat. He was actually arrested for doing criminal behavior. I think it was something with checks, bad checks or something. Listen, I grew up in Hicksville, Long Island. You can take me out of Hicksville, but you'll never take the Hicksville out of me. So sometimes, periodically, parts of my personality or my choices will reflect the guy who used to live in the blue-collar town of Hicksville, which was rough and tough and a little grungy. And a perfect example, without giving you details. The other day, we were in the car with my buddies, and I was telling a story. And my buddy's like, I've never heard you talk like that before. And I said, you know what? I said, that's the Hicksville coming out of me, man. So I would go with, first and foremost, building the most conservative, ironclad, never proven anybody different in terms of nobody's ever contested this person's conservatism. And those are the people that I would have. And then I just start to say, what do we got to do to get this country conservative again? And whether it was tackling the FBI or the IRS or the FCC or the FEC or whatever it may be, I would just start to build out that way with an army of incredible, smart, and reliable conservatives. That will defend our freedoms.
From Jim Smith. With the world on fire, the fearless leader Joe Biden walked into the UN, gave a speech, and yet he never says what he would accomplish for the American people. He's always trying to make a buck from other countries. Why, oh why, would anyone vote for his VP?
Jim is officially asking me to put my mind into the mind of an insane person, which I can't do. Here comes the story for the trillionth and 1st time. When I made They Come to America Too, I sat across from Rudy Giuliani and I asked that man why it is that we could not stop terrorists. And he looked at me and said, Dennis, because I can't put my mind in the mind of a person who is willing to blow up innocent people for the ridiculous thought that he's going to wind up having countless virgins waiting for him at the feet of Allah when he goes to heaven. If you want me to stop John Gotti, I can get him. Because even though I'm not a criminal, I can kind of think to myself, if I were to kill someone, where would I hide the body? If I were to steal a car, where would I sell off the parts? If I were to launder money, how would I launder it? So I can catch the criminal, even though I'm not a criminal. But when you ask me to put my mind, a rational mind, into the mindset of somebody who is irrational, I can't figure out how it is that they're going to blow up the next thing because I would never do that. And that's why it's so hard to catch terrorists before they create a moment or a day or a year of terror. I think the same can be applied for the left. Jim, I can't tell you. It's a mystery to me and my boys and everybody who listens to the show why anyone would vote for Kamala Harris, why anyone would paint their hair blue, why anybody would want to kill a child in the 9th month. I have no idea, bud. I have no idea. It is the great unknown mystery, and this is why I say all the time, until there is an autopsy, and I read something last night, Dennis, that kind of tells you that I'm onto something with the autopsy. Until there's an autopsy of Democrats wide of all different ages, and we find out what clicks in their brain incorrectly, we're done for. Now, I just read this last night. No joke. I didn't realize this. It just happened days ago. Nicholas Cruz is the guy who carried out the shooting at Parkland. He just agreed, as part of a settlement with a family, that when he dies, he is going to donate his brain to science, so this way they can try to figure out, using his brain, where that evil part of him took off. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm not far off. Maybe that will give us a little indication if we did the same sort of thing.
Debbie Winkler. I saw where President Trump took your advice and visited a grocery store to see firsthand what inflation has done to everyday people. Yeah. What other advice do you have for Trump to win this election?
Do more of it. Do more of the same. Explain to people how you are going to solve the problems. Figure out how to do it in 60, 90-second clips. 1 minute commercial for television, 3-minute commercial for the internet. Do it over and over and over and over again. Don't talk to me about Kamala. Don't talk to me about Obama. Don't talk to me about Hillary. Don't talk to me about the DOJ or anything else of that. We've got it. We know. Elections stolen. The kangaroo courts. How are you going to bring down the price of bread? How are you going to bring down the price of gasoline? How are you going to secure my border? How are you going to put Ukraine back into its own box that they feed themselves and fuel themselves? I don't want to pay for them anymore. How? 1 minute, 3 minute. He did it perfect the other day at a rally. A woman got up and asked him, what are you going to do to lower the prices for Americans? And he said, I'm going to start by lowering the price of energy because energy dictates everything for everyone. Great answer. But now let's get into more detail, because what that does is it not only gives his plan credence and headlines, but it also highlights how she doesn't have a plan.
DML, you mentioned that what America needs is an independent candidate to unite us as a country.
Mm-hmm.
RFK Jr. ran as an independent. It was not well received. What are your thoughts on why he didn't do well?
Sandy, I'm sorry, you're incorrect in your assessment. He did not run as an independent. He ran as a Democrat. And when he couldn't get into the primary, when the Democrat Party would not accept him and let him run against Joe Biden, he had no other alternative other than to go independent. He is not an independent. He did not run as an independent. He did it last minute as an independent. He truly is a Democrat.
Mm-hmm. Kimberly Ann, do you think you will run for any office position, including president for 2028? Would you pick Trump as VP, or can he even be VP? Or who might you consider as VP if you did choose to run?
First of all, no. I would not select Trump as a VP. No. Trump's not VP material to begin with. But it's such a hard question. Once again, I mean, I wouldn't know what 8 years from now looks like. So if I had to pick somebody from today, from today's pool, the biggest thing is I would want to pick somebody who I know would be able to carry out what it is that I want to be for this country. And I mean, I like a bunch of different people. I like Josh Hawley. I like him a lot. I also I like Ted Cruz. Not crazy about him as a human being because we've clashed a few times, but I mean it's usually just it was BS kind of stuff. But you know he's a hard nose. I want somebody who I know I can trust. I don't want a Mike Pence type, you know. But the bigger question is no, I would not pick Donald J. Trump. I would consider Eric Trump. Yeah.
Mary Anna Dacia Kane. Do you think healthcare insurance can be fixed? Healthcare insurance in Texas is getting worse as it is all over the country. Most of your top-notch doctors don't take Obamacare or any marketplace insurance. You have to have insurance through an employer to see the better doctors, and even at that, there are doctors in the Houston area that are not even accepting it. Do you feel when President Trump wins, he can fix the healthcare system in this country?
You know, I got to tell you something. That's one of the things I'm very disappointed about with Trump. I'm also disappointed with the Democrats as well. When I sit down and I look at my biggest expenses every single month, I pay more for my health insurance than I do for the mortgage on my home. And I got a nice home. I pay $3,300 a month for our family. And even when I go, I still got to write a co-payment. I mean, I always get a bill for something. You know, I've been in the emergency room a couple of times over the last couple of years, and your mother comes to me and says, yeah, we got a bill. I'm like, how do we get a bill? I got the top insurance. Doesn't matter. They only pay a portion of it. So I think what's happening is doctors are starting to see that the insurance companies are giving them a harder time and paying them less money. And so they're like, why am I going to do this for? Doesn't make sense. And remember, it's not like a doctor doesn't want to still give services out to people, but a doctor has to pay malpractice on top of that, you know, insurance. So why risk, you know, anything at this point? And today's day and age, doctors play by the rules that we all do, which is protect your ass, cover your ass. So, you know, one of the things I do for my own doctor, like my own care physician, is now a big thing that's starting to pop up are these concierge services. So I pay $175 a month to have a concierge doctor, and if I got to get in to get her, I get in there pretty quickly. You know, so it's not a bad thing to do. I think it's one of those things that we could think of. But I think the bigger answer to this is, we are a nation that is a nation of treatment. We're always chasing the ambulance instead of getting in front of it. So I would like to see politicians, be it Trump or be it anybody, to start taking a proactive sort of approach to say, let's get in front of these problems. We don't have to have diabetes. You know, we really don't need to have diabetes. We don't have to have lung cancer. I'll give you a prime example. I'll have somebody come to my house and crack down on the fact that I have a Trump flag in my backyard. Or, somebody else will get some kind of crack down on them about keeping their garbage cans out too long overnight, right? Or having too many cars in their driveway. But, I mean, why don't we stop smoking? The United States does so many crazy things. They want to put a jab in my arm, mandate me to put a jab of poison in my arm, not allow me to go to a food store or stand 6 feet away from my own wife at Halloween or Christmas or wherever it is we're celebrating, but no problem having smoking. I mean, we know every year that 500,000 people die of first and secondhand cigarette smoke through lung cancer, and we do nothing about it. So our country, you want to talk about medical insurance? That's only, you're saying let's change the Band-Aids from being tan to red. No, let's not put Band-Aids on cancer anymore. Let's just get in front of the things that are causing these problems. And therefore, everybody's insurance rates could go down. It's a fundamentally different sort of mindset that would take an enormous amount of will.
Next one is from Zachary Fetty. What impact do you think RFK Jr. has on the election? Do you think President Trump will assign him to the administration? And if so, where would the best place to have him be to best help us fellow Americans?
I got a short answer on this one. I don't know if he's a big enough candidate to move the needle, so to say. I think that Trump is definitely going to benefit from him being pro-Trump, no doubt. It will help. Is it going to be enough to overcome the cheating? I don't know. As far as will he be in Trump's cabinet or his administration, you would guarantee it. I guarantee you the only way he was able to get that endorsement was by agreeing that he would wind up being in there. In terms of where he would be best suited, I don't know, because a lot of times I hear RFK Jr. speak, and I hear a Democrat in there. I like where he stands on vaccines and things of that nature, but I don't know if I'd want to put him in charge of healthcare. So I don't know. I don't know enough about him, but I do know that he would be an asset more than he would be a foe.
From Melissa Williams. Why isn't Trump doing more TV commercials? The Olympics and football are all just Kamala.
I don't know the answer to this. I'm baffled by it. I'll give you options of it, maybe. It could be that the networks are turning down his commercials, although if they were, you would hear about it. So I doubt that's the case. Maybe it's because most of his money that he's raising is going towards paying his legal fees. That scares the hell out of me if that's the case. Or maybe it's just complete sloppiness on the Trump campaign's effort to say, hey, this is going to be won online, not on television. And I think they're making a grave mistake there, because every time I turn on Sunday television to check out one of the NFL games, all I see is Kamala Harris. So it's a mistake.
Ellen Cecilia, do you think we'll ever have an honest media again, or are those days gone forever?
Oh boy, what a fantastic, maybe the question of the day so far. Short answer, long answer in terms of short, like today, and then long in terms of the future. The short answer is the media as you've known it is gone. In the same way that nobody gets a newspaper delivered to them anymore, nobody trusts the people who used to write the newspapers. In the same way that people are now using X and Facebook and podcasts to get their news instead of the old traditional news places, nobody's going to trust ABC, NBC, CBS. I mean, even ABC itself, David Muir is down 10% since the shenanigans he pulled during the debate. And I would think that 10% is probably the 10% of reasonable thinking people who are independents and said, hey, I'm still going to watch ABC News. They said, screw this. And I think slowly but surely those companies have a harder time. Yesterday, something was interesting. I was listening, 2 days ago, I should say, when you had your interview with Alec Lace. Alec Lace said something very interesting. A lot of times today, ABC, NBC, CBS, all these news agencies, even Fox News, they're getting their news from X. they're re-reporting what's already being reported on X. So long term, I think you may have a chance to get back into where it is that you get unfiltered news, and that will be from online entities like X. We just got to hope that Elon Musk isn't arrested by the Kamala Harris group and that the whole thing is shut down. Because remember, there's one thing that can take Elon Musk down in a minute's notice. There are two entities that are bigger than him: Apple and Google. They both have more money. They both have more power. Individually, he's the strongest, but as companies, they are. If Google and Apple were to decide to take X off their platform in the same way they did, what was that, the name of the conservative app that they took down? Started with a P.
Oh, Parler.
Parler.
Yes.
If they take down X, it's over because everybody uses it via their smartphone. So we have to keep in mind that there is a vulnerability there. But if that didn't happen, we will see a rise in new media in the years to come. I think X, if it sticks around, will be the only platform people go to. You'll watch your movies there. You'll watch your shows there. You're going to get your news there. It's going to become a hub like no other.
Gary Valetti. On one of your wine and talks, you and Mary were talking about the downward slide of the country and how disruptive it could be to us. Pretty much there's nowhere else to go, though you suggested Florida as a somewhat safe haven. What are your thoughts on protecting our assets from a possible Harris victory?
I'm assuming he means a Florida asset. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's assume that he's a Floridian, right? How do we, because the way I break his question down is there's nowhere else to go. Florida's the place to go. Everybody's going to go to Florida. How do we protect Florida from Harris? I think the greatest way to protect this state, and if you're not a Floridian today, if you're listening to me from California or Ohio, or New York, or wherever it is that you're in the country, guaranteed, you at some point, if Harris wins this, you will think to yourself, it's time to go to Florida. So how do we protect Florida as a conservative destination against Harris, who is going to have it in her crosshairs? And first and foremost, we got to have Ron DeSantis and his legislature change the state constitution to where a governor in this state can run more than 2 times, because I'd love to keep him in there. He's a young guy. Let's have him in there for a while. I mean, let's anoint him king until he screws up. So that's number one. We've got to protect this state by keeping its powers. And the best way to keep its conservative powers is to keep a supermajority in the legislature, and obviously to keep Ron DeSantis in as governor or somebody damn close to him. So that's that. In terms of how do you protect your other assets, if you're talking about your money assets and your home assets or whatever, I get very nervous about digital assets, banking and everything else as time starts to go on, very much so. I think about it all the time. How do I take my assets from, let's say, for instance, the bank in CDs or stocks or whatever, and how do I put it more into tangible assets like housing? So that I don't have the answers to all of that, and that's not a short little answer on an Ask DML. That's probably like a 1-hour podcast. But I would say that I would start all things by ensuring the fact that we keep leadership in here in the same way New York did it for years and years and years with Cuomo.
From Connie Kofer, if you were the president, what would be your top 10 list of things to do to get our country and the world back on track?
This is the one you gave me the heads up on. I'm going to save Connie for the end, as you suggested. I think we have a couple more based on the count I've got going on here. Let's put Connie at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Rasher. I would like to know why the campaign team for President Trump doesn't totally concentrate on debunking all the lies about him and all the ones that Kamala spews. We all know mostly everyone has their mind made up except the few independents. It drives me crazy thinking if people actually knew the truth, they would vote for him.
Great question. If I were modeling the commercials for Trump, whether it was the 1 minute, 30-second commercial for television or the 3-minute one for the internet, I would make a whole series of education videos that were fun and bright and light and engaging. Give you an example, what he's talking about. It's a brilliant question, by the way. Kamala Harris, so I'd have a cut to Kamala Harris. Coom. Donald Trump is going to take Project 2025 and he is going to be dictator on day one. Go to Trump. I did not write Project 25. I am denouncing it right now. I have no idea about it. I haven't even read it. I don't know what it's about. I am telling you, I am not going to put Project 2025 in there. Or if there's something in Project 2025 that he wants to do specifically, he could state for the record he's not. And he ends it with, she's a liar. And that's how you end it. If it comes down to January 6th, and it's, let's say Barack Obama saying on January 6th, Donald J. Trump put the entire country and democracy at risk. Then I take out the quote, I'm Donald J. Trump. On January 5th, I actually said, and here's my quote, get the soldiers, get the military, get the National Guard, get them at the ready, put them at the Capitol, put them at my rally, do whatever you have to do to keep Washington, D.C. and people safe, because that's exactly what he said on January 5th, and that debunks that there was any insurrection on his part, and people don't know that. They don't know he said that. So I would make a whole series of commercials like that. Absolutely. Time and time again. Pound them every single day. Pound them.
Betty Card. What would you change about Trump's campaign strategy? If you were brought in as a member of his team, where do you consider your strengths to be of the most assistance?
The biggest problem you have, anybody you bring in, I think I'd be great with marketing and messaging. The whole grocery store thing is something I was conjuring up. I created Diamond and Silk. I could go on long in this list with this. I understand what people want because I've traveled the country and I've met with them. I think that's what makes me unique versus other people. And so when I look at what Trump is doing wrong, it is an impossibility, I think, for his team to change a lot of it, because you want Trump to be Trump. But when Trump is Trump and he's too much Trump, he goes off on these tangents that are meaningless to people, and he gives the media the kindling that they need to start the anti-Trump fire. So what I would do, maybe even I have to lie to him, although I don't think it's a lie anymore. I'd say, President Trump, we can't have any more rallies, because if you do have rallies, there's going to be too many assassination attempts, and one of these days they're going to get it right. So what we need to do is just make a huge, large circle of cameras around you, and let's make as many videos as we can. Let's bring Americans from all over, fly them into Mar-a-Lago. Let's do as much as we possibly can. And with all those different cameras, I would cut up the videos to take out all the fluff that he talks about, and I'd make the most solid videos of all damn time. That's what I would do. Because you've got to get the best of Trump in and the worst of Trump out. And the only way to do that is you got to be able to edit him.
Mm-hmm. Jason Warren. I have feared for our country for a long time. It comes in waves, from Obama's presidency to how Trump was treated when he ran, to COVID, and to the stolen 2020 election, and all the way to where we are now. Over the past 2 years, I've become a prepper. I have stocked up on food, water supply, a solar generator, all sorts of tools and items, and I've moved to the countryside. I fear within the next 5 to 10 years, I see it being pure chaos, whether it's World War III, Civil War, another pandemic, and so on. Am I overreacting? And is this something we should urge other Americans to consider?
I don't think you're overreacting in your fears. Let me change that. I don't think you're overreacting in your predictions for possibility of civil war or world war or pandemic or famine, for that part. I think where you're making the mistake is you're living in fear. You're going to spend so many years and so much time preparing for what may or may not happen, you're failing to live. And so you have to ask yourself this question. If there was a horrendous nuclear war, if there was a horrendous famine or a pandemic where 60 to 70 to 80 people got wiped out, do you even want to live at that point? What would you rather do? Be somebody who lived 80 years miserably in fear, or somebody who lived 50 years in total love and bliss? I'd take the 50 years. So stop living in fear. Yeah, okay. If you want to prepare a little bit like you would for a hurricane or a tornado, temporary sort of thing, absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. But stop living in fear based on what could or might happen and start living your life. Instead of overspending money on having a water supply that's going to last you 2 years, start putting that money into a nice vacation with you and your family and go and enjoy life as it is right now while you can still enjoy it.
I think we're going to circle back to Connie with her 10.
So Connie asked me the question of 10 things I would do if I were the president of the United States. What's the first 10 things? Too big of a question for this sort of thing. Maybe that would be a cool podcast for another day when it's a slow day. But what I did was I went along the lines of I wrote a list of 10 things I would do with immigration.
Immigration, yeah.
Okay? Because I think immigration, look, the big two problems in this country is immigration and the media. All right? So the media I can fix in a heartbeat. In the same way that doctors and lawyers have to take an oath and have to get malpractice insurance, and that they lose that insurance and the ability to operate if they do things, and I mean operate as a business, not operate as a doctor, if they do things that are inconsistent with the oath that they took, a lawyer loses his license if he reveals if he breaks the privilege, the confidentiality privilege between him and his client. A doctor who is supposed to amputate the right foot and cuts off the left foot, or who's irresponsible and gives away your data to somebody, loses his ability to license to practice. I think the same thing has to be inserted into the media. You take an oath. You have to report the truth. You have to be unbiased. You cannot omit facts. That's it. If you break that, your insurance company is going to have to pay out the ass. Once they start having to pay out the ass, they're not going to insure you anymore. If you're not insured, you can't operate. There you go. So, but in terms of immigration, if I were the president of the United States, here are the 10 things that, off the cuff, that I would do immediately. Number one is I would do mass deportations. 2, I would shut down the border completely. You want to come in through Mexico? There's only one port of entry. That's all it is. I don't care. It's an inconvenience for you. Tough luck. Number 3, stop mass legal migration. We're taking in too many people. We don't have the assets to do the vetting. 4, I'd cut off the money to all sanctuary cities in the United States, all federal money. Number 5, I'd cut off money to any country who did not take back their illegal aliens that are in my country. I'm deporting them all. You better take them back. Venezuela, you don't do it. Guess what? We're cutting off any money. If we're not giving you money now, you risk going to war. It's that simple. We'll put sanctions on your country. You'll be crippled. Number 6, mandatory E-Verify for everybody, everywhere in the United States. You break the rules of mandatory E-Verify, you go to jail. You don't get a second shot. It's like anybody who gets caught for trafficking a child. You don't get a second shot. You're going to jail. Number 7, raids. I would do raids into businesses that I know were hiring illegal aliens. I would have it filmed. I would have it live streamed on every single social media platform. And if they stop doing it, I'd create my own social media platform on whitehouse.gov. You would watch us go in and do raids. You'd see us take the illegal aliens in a very humanitarian way and watch us deport them. And you'd watch me take the business owners and put them into jail. So this way, you would be incentivized as a business owner never to hire another illegal alien again. And you'd be incentivized as an illegal alien to go home on your own, self-deport. Number 8, I would put massive tariffs on both Mexico and Canada. You don't shut down your borders from people coming over in here illegally, you are going to get tariffed. I am going to take those tariffs and lift them by 5% every single month until you have your borders shut down, just like we did during COVID. Number 9 is I would sort of deputize, if you will, all sheriff departments and all local police departments around the country to help me carry out immigration laws. Number 10, and this is maybe a little bit old, it's not something that I've totally supported in the past, but I would build the wall completely. Just so this way, it sends out a message, although it's not going to stop anything. It's like putting a Band-Aid on cancer. And just to make it a little bit easier for Border Patrol agents to get to places quicker to stop the people from coming in. And that's the top 10 things that I would wind up doing.
All right. I have my last question here.
It's from you.
Yes, it's from me. What would your mass deportation process look like?
What would my mass deportation process look like? Well, First of all, the biggest problem we have is the way the court system is doing it. So I would have to battle the courts. And here's what I would do. I would actually start just deporting people. I would deport them and let the courts try to stop it. They're not going to be able to stop it. By the time they do it, I will have already gotten rid of millions of people. We only have about 3,000 ICE agents actually working on deportations of 50 million people. So I go back to, I would have to deputize, if you will, local law enforcement and sheriff's departments to help me do this. But my biggest deportation effort would be that of self-deportation. I would incentivize the people who are here illegally to leave on their own accord. Right now, nobody's leaving. So I would tell people, I would make major announcements. I would do it every single place I possibly could on the microphone, and I do it in Spanish. I do it in every single last thing you could possibly imagine in terms of different types of dialect. If you leave, you get 3 months. If you leave, you can take the money that you have made, the money you have, you leave on your own, and you check out on the way out if you want to, if you ever think you want to come back, you will be rewarded for leaving in the sense that we will not hold it against you that you were here illegally if you want to come back legally. We will process your paperwork as if you were never here before, but also give you the consideration that you have people here living here if they are here legally. So it behooves you to do that. If you don't do it and we catch you, we're confiscating your money. You're getting deported and you'll never have a chance to ever come back. And that's the way it's going to work. And I'm telling you, you cut off the incentives, people are going to start self-deporting. So if I got 50 million people in this country illegally and I put that plan in, I'm going to have 25 million people leave, and it didn't cost me a dime. And now my problem is cut by half. And that would be the first step.
That's it.
That's it. Great questions. Thank you. Everybody who asked a question today gets a free bottle of DML CBD. All you have to do is you email Ashley, ASHLEY at DMLCBD.com. Tell them who you are, first name, last name, your address. Tell them the question you asked. She'll confirm it, and she will wind up sending you the paperwork you need. Very simple thing, one little thing, and we will send this to you for free. Anybody who asks us a question gets a free bottle of DML CBD face serum. Also, as a closing, don't forget today, DMLCBD.com/gel. Buy one, get one free. It lasts until tonight, and it ends tonight being Thursday. And of course, DMLCBD.com/store. Items like hats, DVDs, etc. for $10. You buy one, you get a free bottle of DML face serum. That's it for me. Thank you so much for all your questions. Until tomorrow, when I return, God willing, with the beautiful Miss Mary, we're going to be talking about, I believe, Trump going to the grocery stores and the burden of groceries on people in the United States. Make sure you check in on that one. Until then, may God bless you, your family, these United States, and Donald J. Trump.
And today's Team DML blessing goes to Eddie Larson.
Sounds good, Eddie. Run with it. Talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.